Hi, and welcome to Epiphanies. I'm Reverend Jessie Brandon, and I'm a life cycle celebrant as well as a metaphysical minister. And I get to bring my two loves together, which is books and people. And today I'll be talking with Vanessa Dewsbury, and the book that we'll start with is Dying to Be Me by Anita Moorjani. Now, I had the pleasure of meeting Ms. Moorjani last year when I was at a Louise Hay I Can Do It conference, and it was really cool to meet her. I'm just going to read you a little bit about the introduction. And the main purpose of sharing my story is so that others do not have to go through what I went through. It's not my style to overtly teach people or tell them how to live their lives. Nor do I like advising anyone on what changes they need to make, even if they ask. I prefer to lead by example and create a safe environment for others to get in touch with their own truth. Now, she had a near-death experience, and through the telling of her story, Wayne Dyer heard about her, and he invited her to come and tell her story, and eventually her book was written. And obviously, it is her journey from cancer to near-death to true healing, and what her perspective on how and why she got cancer and how she was healed. So we'll go further with that in just a moment, but first let's invite Vanessa on. Vanessa, come on in. Hi, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. It's good to see you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Have a seat. And just while I'm reading your bio, you can go ahead and make yourself a tea or just have hot water, whatever makes you comfortable. And I hope that you too at home have grabbed a cup of tea and settled into your cozy chair. So Vanessa Marie Dewsbury is a Reiki Master, a photographer. She does intuitive energy work. And she has a book coming out, I believe it's October.
That's my aim.
That's her aim, to have her book out by October. And it is called Heart is Where the Home Is. And it is a book of inspirational writings. And she's also a blogger. So, Vanessa, what led you to this book?
Actually, someone had recommended it to me years ago, and a friend of mine on Facebook, John, and I never picked it up for years and years. I always find that, we pick things up when they resonate with us, right? We could have a book sitting on our shelf for 2 years and never pick it up, and then suddenly we're drawn to it.
Right.
So he recommended it, but it wasn't until this year. I was at the Goodwill in the South End, or whatever it's called now. And I was in the book section, section where I always go, and I picked this up and I found it. I'm like, oh, this is the book that was recommended to me. So I finally picked it up to read it. It spoke to me.
And what would you say was the most important thing that you learned from reading the book? What did it say to you?
Well, she talks about, so she had her near-death experience, right? So she had cancer for 4 years, and she had her near-death experience, and she realized after the experience that we're really all one, right? Everything's a lot of illusions that we create. Reality is inside of us. And she believed that she manifested her cancer from she never was true to who she is, right? So she protected herself, and she ended up developing cancer. So after her near-death experience, she came out of it, and the cancer was completely gone.
Wow. Now, where was the cancer? I think that's an important part.
Yeah, it was in her left shoulder, and I believe left represents protection, right? The shield of protection that we hold. So it's interesting. She didn't talk about that in the book, but it's interesting to me that it developed there, right? For all of the years of her life, she was always protecting her identity and holding in who she really was. And when you hold in who you are and don't express it, you're going against your own grain, and that causes conflict and dis-ease within your body.
Right, absolutely. So since you've read it, have you been able to recommend it to anyone else?
Oh yeah, I've recommended it to a few of my friends.
Yeah. Now, as a Reiki master, you have a home practice, so you see a lot of people on a weekly basis, I would say.
Yeah.
So have you been sharing the information about the book with your clients?
Yeah, I talk about it with a few people. I always feel like who I would need to speak about it with, right? So if I feel like something comes up where I need to tell them about the book, but sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't.
Yeah. So it's just all intuitively whether you would share the information or not.
Yeah.
And is there a particular aspect or message from the book that you would want our viewers to get from the book?
Well, just being true to who you are. Like that's what the basis of her book is, dying to be me, dying to be herself. And her parents wanted her in an arranged marriage, so I think she tried that in part of her life, but it wasn't. She wanted to have adventure, and she wanted to live life to its fullest instead of just being what everybody else wanted her to be. And she tried to be, and then that's what happened in her body. She manifested the dis-ease, when your body's not at ease with itself, right? It's trying to be itself, but it's being prevented from being itself, so it just is not at ease.
Right. So it's about being authentic, and being who you really are.
Yeah.
So the part that I liked about the book was where she's actually, she's moments from death. I think they've called in a priest or someone to basically do last rites, and everybody said goodbye, and she can hear the doctors talking 30 feet down the hall. About what's going on, and she can hear her brother thinking, or she knows that he's on the plane?
She knows that he's on the plane, like she sees him on the plane, and she can recount the conversations that people had, and they couldn't understand because she was unconscious. She was in a coma. She was like so near death that it was mere minutes. Yeah, and you hear a lot about that. You hear a lot about near-death experiences where people can recall conversations and people in the room. I spoke to a friend recently where that happened. She was told she was unconscious, but she could she could see someone beside her too, so that's a whole other thing. But it's amazing to me. And what happens is you kind of realize like in the grand scheme of things, right? All these things that we worry about and stress about that we carry around in our minds really don't matter. Like when you go up into the universe, that's how if I ever feel stressed, I picture myself like up above and kind of looking down and realizing that it's just like it's okay. It matters, but it doesn't really matter. Right. It's sort of like that book, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. Yeah. And something that I say to my daughter a lot is, will this matter a year from now? Yeah. Because stress can be a real problem for people. Yeah, and sometimes we don't even know what we were worried about last week, right? So to think of how much things that we worry about, and sometimes we go to bed too with thinking about what we have to do tomorrow or what we didn't do, and we wake up feeling already stressed out, right? Because you went to bed with that mindset, that worry and stress mindset, so it's into your unconsciousness, and wake up and worried again and stressed. Yeah. Yes, I really loved that book, and as I said, I did meet her very briefly. It was a lineup of people who were buying her book, and she was very self-effacing. She didn't she didn't act like somebody, oh yes, I've written a book. And you can sense that how you become very humbled by life, and you kind of realize you're important, but you're not important. Do you know what I mean? Absolutely. Yeah. So it's okay. She's just engaging with people and not up here. She's up here with everybody else, right? Yeah, not she's above. Just telling her story so that people can understand what her truth was, and possibly it's your truth as well. Yeah, she's very very fascinating. So one of the things that I would like to ask you about is what was the most difficult thing that you gave up to follow your destiny? I had to give up who I thought I was. I had to give up we become conditioned in life, right? When we're doing things we think we're supposed to be doing, and we try to be someone that we're not really, right? So I had to give up who I thought I was so I could be who I really am. Right. So. And you had your own health crises along the way as you were doing that too, and that led to that understanding that you had to give that up. So did you feel any affinity for Anita when you were reading the book, sort of, facing things and going, I can't live my life this way, I've got to be me? Well, on my part of my journey now, I am me, like authentically, I am myself. So I resonated with her, how she was before. Right. And so my past person and hers resonated with each other, and then now we resonate as who we are now. Yeah. Yeah. I love that
that whole idea of being able to completely step away from who you were to become who you really are,
Right.
and to live your life to the fullest of your ability. I mean, that's something that just gets me so excited, because we worry so much when we're younger about the things that we do and whether people are looking at us, and you know, whether we're doing it right, wrong, or whatever, you know, by everybody else's judgment. And as we age, we get to just be who we are and explore things. Sorry.
We start off as who we are, right?
True.
We play, we create, we express. You know, one day we're Cinderella, the next day we're Superman.
Yeah.
So that's how we lived. So throughout our lives, right, we have to put on the different masks of our work expects us to be this way, or our partner or our friends. So we wear the different masks to appease everybody. Then suddenly there's too many masks. It's an overwhelm, and you feel like discombobulated, right? And then you start peeling the layers and taking off the masks when it becomes, once tolerable becomes intolerable, then that's when you start removing your layers.
Yeah.
And digging deep within your soul to reconnect with yourself, who you are.
I once had someone say to me many years ago, the way to affect change is to increase the pain of remaining the same. And I think that's literally what we do to ourselves without realizing it, because we don't change until we have to.
Yeah.
And because we don't realize that bliss is just on the other side of that change.
Right.
And
because that's all we know, right? So a lot of us fear the unknown. I don't know why. I don't know why we do. I think we almost fear that we won't be okay. Right?
You know, funny enough, I had somebody tell me that it goes way back to primitive times, because the unknown could literally kill you just outside the cave, and so there was all this fear built up, and so it's primal, this fear. You know, I think they call it the lizard brain, a part of the brain that carries that fear, and that's the part that's supposed to keep you from being killed.
Right.
And it just permeates everything.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, yeah. I'm going to stop you there for a minute and just let everybody know that this is Epiphanies that you're watching. And we're going to take a brief break, but come on back, because next we're going to talk about what Vanessa does in her real life. Thanks, and come on back. Hi, welcome back to Epiphanies, and I'm here with my guest today, Vanessa Dewsbury, and we've been talking about Dying to Be Me by Anita Moorjani, and it's her journey from cancer to near death to true healing. And I strongly recommend that you give it a look, because it's really a fascinating book, and both of us have enjoyed it very much.
Oh, yes.
So now I want to know, who is Vanessa when she's at home?
Well, there's lots of pieces of ourselves, right? So I'm, you know, in my alone state, I do a lot of self-reflection. I love to be in nature. When I went for a walk in Midhurst, Springwater on the weekend, just walking into the forest, I could feel like the cells of my own body, I don't know, just the feeling of walking into a forest, right? And the cells of the trees and the energy of the trees. It's just a very amazing experience.
Are you a tree hugger? Because I am.
I hug trees.
I love hugging trees. You can feel the energy flowing through them.
Yeah.
It's just such a beautiful thing.
And they keep us alive. So to live in, say, the city where you've lost that connection with nature, because it's like the concrete jungle, as they say, that has to be hard on you, because how often can you be in a forest and be angry? You can never be. You feel completely and fully alive. You can almost feel like the earth breathing.
Right.
Yeah, I'm in awe when I see the trees, the flowers, everything.
I know. I love your pictures on Facebook. I just think it's so amazing, because you give me a view. When I haven't gotten out, I see your pictures and I go, I have got to get outside, because that's what's out there.
To go back to what you're asking me, who am I at home? I'm a mother. I'm weird with labels. I just think we just are as we are, right?
Yes.
So I know we need labels to define things, but I find, you know, we just are doing what we're doing, interacting with our family, communicating with our families, giving love for our family, cooking, just spending time with friends. Yeah.
So you're also a Reiki Master, and you have a home office, and you practice that regularly with clients, right?
Yep.
Monday to Friday.
Yep. And weekends as well.
Oh, you do weekends as well? And I know you teach Reiki classes.
Yeah.
And you do all 3 levels, 1, 2,
Yes.
3. And you've been writing a book. Now tell me a little bit about the book. I know that it's almost finished, and we who are on Facebook with Vanessa have had the opportunity to see a lot of those postings.
Yeah.
So tell me about the book. How did it start, and when did you know it was going to be a book?
Well, I shared, like, as you know, I share a lot of my inspirational quotes and truths. Like, I write from my heart, right? So I don't expect anyone ever to fully agree with me, right? Or at all, because what I believe, just because I believe something doesn't mean it's true, but it doesn't always resonate with other people. So I just share a lot of, along my journey of how I got here. And sometimes I'm just sitting there and suddenly something comes to me and I just have to start writing. A lot of times it happens in the middle of the night. So I'm like, I'll remember this, but I don't.
Do you ever get up and make notes?
No, I'm too cozy in that bed. It's too warm.
Yeah, I'm that way too.
Yeah, I try to make the mental notes, but so the book is just, inspiration, and it's been for a few years. So basically it's a compilation of my thoughts. So it's not a story, just thoughts on the pages.
Yeah, that's actually really great, because one of my other guests gave me a book called Embers, and that's what it is too. It's just daily, writings that have come to him. As he went through his life, something would happen and it would cause him to write it down. And I know I've certainly enjoyed some of your stuff. And I know I talk about my daughter a lot, but I have her hooked on you too, and she actually shared one on Facebook.
Yeah, I saw that last night.
Yeah, and so it really does resonate with a lot of us, and I can't wait for the book. Now, how did you tell my viewers how you determined when the book was supposed to come out?
Well, I asked my daughter, I'm like, when do you think my book will come out? And she's like, so this is last August. And she's like, October. I'm like, October? I'm like, that's soon. She's like, 2017. I'm like, okay. So then I asked my stepdaughter, she came out. I'm like, when do you think my book will be released? And she's like, October. I'm like, October. And she's like, what's the year is it? I'm like, 2016. And then she said 2017. So they said the same date. And then when we went to Mexico in March, and I read a horoscope, and it said, this is the time to like reflect and, foster your talents, and if you're a writer, photographer, whatever, which was interesting. And it said, who knows, 6 months from now you could have your name in lights. So it coincides with the date of being in October. So that, and even if it's the last day in October, that's my intention. And when we set a goal and we set dates, that's when we are more apt to meet them, right? If we keep it open-ended. Even when I started my Reiki business, which I started because I had healing issues, so I kept saying, when I get better, when I heal, I will open my business. But I realized that I kind of left it open to the universe. So I had to put on a closing date. So I said, June 2014, I will be better and I will open my business. And then sure enough, I met somebody who helped me with my healing issues and cleared it. And then that was it.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing? Like I just told a friend she's looking for, she needs an apartment down by York University, and I don't know which campus, but anyway, she needs an apartment. She needs it right away. And I said to her, sit down and write exactly what you want and dream big, because the universe can't bring you what you need if it doesn't know exactly what you're asking for.
Oh, right, yeah.
And I believe that in so many things. I mean, I've done that myself. When I owned my house, I got a tenant that way, and various other things. And it's just amazing when you put pen to paper and write down what's in your heart.
And a lot of times people do focus on what they don't want, right? They focus on the things that they don't want, so it can still manifest because you're still thinking about it, right? So the universe doesn't know, right from wrong or good from bad, negative, positive. It just gives you what you are thinking about and the frequency you're putting out most of the time. So if you're thinking about all the things you don't want, it's still going to come to you. So that's why they say to act as if, right? When you visualize and see the things coming to you that you desire and become very specific about it, you can attain it.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, as I've said before in other shows, that's how this show came about for me. It was just a dream. And someone said, well, do it.
And why not, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I pushed through the fear, and that's really what you know, is another thing, is pushing through that fear to become who you're meant to be.
Yeah.
And because why not? What else are you doing with your life? I mean, I didn't go to university till I was 45.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because somebody, I said to somebody, well, I'd really like to go, but you know, I'm going to be 48 when I get out, when I'm finished. And they said, but aren't you going to be 48 anyway? Oh,
I know,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And 48 sounds very young to me still, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, fear is interesting because for me, I feel like fear is just trying to protect us, right? It protects us because it doesn't want us to feel pain, which we need pain for change.
Right.
But it doesn't want us to experience heartache, but we need all of that stuff, or else we have no relation, right? If we don't experience anything that kind of disrupts our world and our universe, how can we grow and evolve without those experiences?
Well, that's exactly it, because in my philosophy, I believe that the divine, the all-powerful creator, knows everything, but it couldn't experience itself, and that's why it created mankind, so that we could actually experience every emotion and every opportunity to remember who we really are.
Right.
And because it's all about being the best you can be.
Yeah.
And you can only be that best if you find yourself and be yourself, be the authentic you.
Yeah. And I find the importance of meditation and trust in your intuition. Like I operate like 99% on my intuition, on my feelings, right?
Yeah.
So I make decisions based on how I feel about something. I sit with it, because if I choose to decide logically, then I start overthinking, and then I can find 6 different reasons. But if I settle and feel, right, and if we think about it, on the other side of the unseen world, there's no language, right? When I think of dying to be me, when she had a near-death experience on the other side of death, because I believe that our souls and our light go back, but there's no language there, right? Everything's only feeling. She says she can't even describe some of the things. It was just feeling, observing and feeling. So I think that's important to like reconnect. I think we think too much and overuse and abuse our brain so much that we lose our body and spirit connection. So we're living up here, and then suddenly our body's crying out because we're neglecting it,
Right.
and disease happens, or pain, injury, illness, because we've just put it aside. So that's really important.
Yeah.
Following your intuition as well and reconnecting within.
Right. And I mean, that's, again, back to the whole stress thing. We're moving so fast and doing so much and multitasking. We're giving basically a half of our power to 10 different things instead of focusing on one thing and being the best that we can be and doing it, and really listening to ourselves about whether that's the right thing for us to be doing. And
I even found this morning when I was doing yoga, I had my phone playing music, but it was still turned on. So then it's pinging from messages, and then my partner is warming something up, and so the microwave was going off and the alarm on the stove. So it was like, I'm like, wow, like I'm in doing yoga, so it's supposed to be gentle and for yourself, and there's all these pings and notifications, so my brain's like firing, trying to give attention to each thing, right, when I'm trying to just to give attention to me. So it's important even to sleep with your phone on airplane mode, because those notifications affect the energy of yourself, right? I believe our brains are like little computers, so if we're having our phones pinging us all day or all night when we're trying to sleep, it's going to affect our sleep as well. So turning things off and just being.
yeah, I know I have a power bar beside my bed, because I have various phone things plugged in and so forth. I have to put something over that light, because I can't stand having that light. It makes me feel like I'm on alert the whole time.
Oh yeah.
And it doesn't feel good.
No, we're supposed to sleep in like complete darkness for
Right.
even to balance our hormones.
Right, so that the body can produce melatonin.
Yeah.
Because if your body thinks that the lights are always on, it's not going to produce
Right.
the melatonin that you need.
Yeah.
I just want to talk to my viewers for a moment. I want to let you know that you can contact me through email at jessie@jessiebrandon.ca with any questions about the book, Dying to Be Me, or Vanessa Dewsbury, my guest today, and anything that we've discussed. If you have a question, I'd love to hear about it, and I'll address it in a future show. And I also just want to know from you what you do a little bit of photography as well, don't you?
Yeah, I do weddings, and I do a lot of headshots and family shoots, and a lot of work for like people in the spiritual realm. So yeah, do some photography as well.
Yeah,
10 years.
Yeah, 10 years of photography, but you're really moving into the whole spiritual realm of who you really are, the writer, the author, the blogger.
Yeah, and just help, and I believe we're to be of service to others. So my focus is to focus on my Reiki business, Soul Alive Barrie, to help others who are experiencing perhaps what I was, something similar to what I was before, to share my experience and what helped me.
Well, I have one last question for you. I'd like to know if you can tell me, share with us, what was your biggest epiphany?
My biggest epiphany, well, I had my awakening, as they call it, in 2012. So I, became awake to all the beauty of the world, but also all the ugliness, right? So I started researching like conspiracy theories and kind of going down the rabbit hole. But for me, if you think about it metaphorically, the rabbit hole is dark, it's lower energy. So I found the lower I got, the more anxiety I would feel, right?
Right.
So I had to choose to remain in the light and to share this newfound positivity and, this newfound perspective that I gained from being awakened, from whatever was happening at my life that time that kind of shook me awake and opened my eyes to brand new eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would be my biggest epiphany, is becoming awake.
I just want to thank you for being here today, and I really appreciate your time. And it's always interesting to talk about books, and, and I love having my friends here.
Lovely, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for watching Epiphanies. I do hope you'll join me again next week and see who my next guest is in the next book. And I appreciate your time. We'll see you again. Bye now.